Welcome to the Good Success Podcast, where we encourage and challenge purpose-driven entrepreneurs to create, build, and maintain profitable businesses so they can have more to give more. Our motto is to be a conduit, not a bucket. Work to have to give. We hope you enjoy the show. Welcome back to the Good Success Podcast. I am your host, Tom Olson, and I've got Clint Howard with me today from Arkansas. Thank you so much for spending some time with us, Clint.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on the show.
So, Clint, I actually met Clint recently on a Christian Facebook group, and I just kind of, we connected and we said, hey, why don't you come be in my podcast? He's the owner of Coldwater River Marketing and Web Design, and he helps people build brands that their customers love. And, if you want to build a brand that customers will love, I hope that you guys will listen to this podcast. So, thank you, Clint, for being on today. I really appreciate your time. Last week I was actually consulting out in San Francisco, and it was really interesting because we hear about the Golden Gate Bridge as this magnificent, amazing, awesome, wonderful bridge. It's even interesting. I met somebody while I was there, one of my friends, Al Williamson, who's out in Sacramento, who's actually has been one of my coaches at time. And we kind of even go back and forth, coach each other. He's actually one of the people that have given me really good feedback on my 30 Days to Good Success journey. He actually calls it the hardest workbook he's ever gotten to get through, which is actually kind of a compliment. If you ask me, but I wasn't even out there consulting him. I was out there consulting another person from our mastermind. And he used to be an engineer, and even him, he stayed being an engineer for several years because he thought he was going to get the opportunity. And his company even had the contract to restructure and to solidify and make sure that the Golden Gate Bridge was all good to go, because, a good decade ago or so, we had all these bridges and everybody was all worried that all the bridges were going to fall down. So eventually they lost that contract, and he kind of just gave up on engineering. He said, forget it. I'm just going to go into real estate and do what I do here in real estate and be a coach. And he's really a great guy. I had dinner with him, just such a humble spirit. But, it was interesting. When I went there, I was like, I've never been to the Golden Gate Bridge. I've never been there. So I spent about 4 hours just driving around the city, just driving from where I was at, which is a little bit farther north. And I kind of drove down to San Francisco, and then my flight was leaving San Jose. And, I said, I'm going to go over all the bridges, because the bridges are all kind of cool there. And actually, it's interesting because, if you think about the bridges, the Oakland Bridge is probably more of an engineering feat, really, than the Golden Gate Bridge. But the Golden Gate Bridge is like the one that everybody knows about. It's iconic, interesting. Yeah. It's so cool. But, when I was there, I just thought to myself, when this Golden Gate Bridge was built, it was built to help people get to the other side. And, I really hope that the Good Success Podcast, I really hope that Clint today, I really hope the Good Success community, that's what I want us to be. You guys have heard my statements, be a conduit, not a bucket. It's not about you. It's about what you can build yourself to be. How can you build yourself to be strong, to be able to hold up others, and to be able to eventually help people get from one side and get to the other? So who are you being a bridge for today? Who are you filling in the gap for? Who are you trying to make better today? Even in Ezekiel, I'm reading in Ezekiel right now, and it talks about, God was looking for one good man. He was looking for one good man to stand in the gap. And I think that's what we were all called to be. We're all called to be stewards. And the greatest commandment, the first commandment, I shouldn't say the greatest commandment, but the first commandment that God gave us was be fruitful and multiply. And that means our families, that means our business, that means our network, all those things we are supposed to be growing in every single day. And that's why growth is one of the core values of good success. But that being a steward and growing in that stewardship, growing in the influence that we have, growing in our financial acumen and our finances, not so we can have. Remember, it's working with your hands, the thing which is good, so you can have to give to those in need. That's the purpose. That's why God created you. I hope that you guys will find that purpose today. If you haven't found it, and I hope if you found it, you'll be encouraged today. You will stand up and you'll even maybe get a little bit motivational, or even get a little bit challenged today to say, you know what, I need to live a bigger life. I need to be a bridge to be able to help somebody else get to the other side. So, and that's why I bring a lot of the guests that we bring on, and Clint, I don't think is going to be any different. He has a business and he's trying to help businesses survive, or trying to help businesses scale, or trying to help businesses, like he said, create a brand in which, people will love to follow and love to be a part of that community. So welcome back to welcome to the podcast, Clint. I always take a few minutes at the beginning to kind of just give some thoughts about what I've been thinking about. But like I said, Clint is the owner of Cold River Marketing and Web Design. He specializes in helping small businesses attract new customers and build customer loyalty through brand building and through strategy, website design and optimization, and digital marketing as well. So, I'm not going to get too much more into this bio. I think it's normally better for just the guests to kind of just tell us who they are, where they're at, and what they do. So, Clint, why don't you just tell us who you are, what you do, and where you're from.
Yeah, and I think your intro is a really good one. That's really how I picture my role, and it's developed over the years. I started off as a pastor for nearly 8 years, but getting into marketing and web design, started off in web design, creating websites first for churches and then small businesses. And one of the big things that I've noticed about small business marketing in general, small business websites especially, is not enough focus on their brand, on the personality of their business. And so I kind of feel like it's my mission now, here locally, especially where I'm at in Harrison, Arkansas, helping local small businesses think more about their brand, build the personality of their business, make those connections with local customers.
Excellent. So really, it's kind of funny because the last 2 or 3 podcasts that we've done have been kind of, there've been a little bit of a theme. So, you're focused on small businesses, and the last 2 people that I've had have been focused on really just small businesses, and they're trying to bridge the gap between what the big businesses do and what the small businesses do. There's a reason why you can tell me what the picture of Apple is, right? There's a reason why you can tell me what Target's logo looks like. There's a reason why and that's because they're very intentional about their marketing. They're very intentional about the brand and about the feel that somebody leaves when they leave. So if you think about it, like you said, you were a pastor, right? Every church has its own brand, and the brand of that church is not the logo. It's not the colors. It's not all of that, although those are important. The brand of that church is the feeling or what you remember when you leave that church. And that's the same way it is with our businesses. Our brand is really our reputation. It's really the way people view us. It's really like how people feel when they came in our presence and they left. So building that digitally, I think, is sometimes hard for us because, we most entrepreneurs don't think in that world. They kind of think like person to person, or they think in the operation, whatever product that they want to sell, whether it's coffee, whether it's houses, whether it's a coaching group. Like, they're focused more on the operations of that instead of how do people really feel when they come in tune with me, or when they come in contact with me.
Yeah, and most don't realize that there is a personality, there is a brand that your business portrays no matter what you do. But the thing about it is you can be intentional about building that. And that's what Apple and Target and the big names do. But that's the advantage that a small business has over the big names. And I know small businesses that I work with, they're always worried about, well, my customers could go on Amazon, or they go to Walmart and get it cheaper, get it in bulk or whatever. But if you build relationships with your customers And the way you have to do that is by giving your business a personality. That's how people build relationships. They find something that they like about somebody else. They connect with somebody else. People can do that with your business. If you're intentional about it and you build a personality for your business, people will connect, build relationships. And those relationships that you have opportunity as a small business owner to build are going to be much stronger than there's a better price point at Amazon or whatever. And people buy all the time from local small businesses, even though they pay more because of those relationships. So being intentional about building that and making sure that you're building those relationships is very important. And I think one of the areas is websites. One of the big problems I see as a website designer is websites that just don't have enough messaging. It's just, let's put up a logo, let's put up a homepage, tell everybody what we do and hope that's enough, but not enough branding and not enough messaging.
Interesting. So, how do you actually do this for people? So before we kind of get into your story, I'd love to kind of know, like, how do you actually, what does that process look like? Do you do like just consulting with them, or do you just say, hey, I'll take care of it, I'll do it all? Like, what does that process look like? How do you actually help business entrepreneurs?
It's a good question. It's one of those things that I can't really do it for a business owner, but unfortunately, as a web designer, you're kind of forced into doing it for too many business owners, which is one of the reasons that this is such an important passion of mine, is because a business owner really should be making these decisions. But what happens is they go to a web designer and they say, make me a nice looking website. And the web designer then has to decide what words are we going to put on there, because the business owner doesn't always provide that. What colors are we going to use, because the business owner doesn't always provide enough feedback on that. So what I do when business owners get it and when they really want to be involved is I take them through some exercises to help them to identify what's the ideal customer. Marketing 101 stuff. What's the ideal customer that you would target if you had to choose one? And that's such a hard thing for business owners to do because every business owner wants to reach everybody. But if you can target it to just one persona, one type of customer, and then build your brand around that, then it makes it much easier. And then some other things that are some exercises that we go through, building a branding word cloud, where you just take some time to really brainstorm and think about what are the words that you want to associate with your business, because words are important. When you have a relationship with somebody, that you've got a friend or whatever that always uses the same phrases over and over again. And sometimes you might make fun of people for it because they're always using the same phrase. People associate personality with our words and the way that we say things. And a business is no different. So taking some time to intentionally think about the words that you want to associate with your business, and then carrying that forward when you have to make a Facebook post or an Instagram post or put some content on your website, then you have a bank to pull from. What you want to say and the words that you want to use, and being intentional about that is really important. And of course, there's much more to building a brand, but that's the starting point.
Sure. So basically, like, you do an exercise of them picking out their target avatar, like what is their perfect avatar,
yeah.
And then a keyword search and kind of knowing what people want to be known for. Like for us, like I'm always drilling down. I want to be known for work to have to give, be a conduit, not a bucket. Like there's the kind of unique statements, unique things that, I want to be known for. And then kind of like, I'm assuming there's some kind of logo exercise as well to kind of like figure out, what that should look like. What does people want that to look like? Even the color exercise that, I've been through several times. And do you actually do marketing plans for people, or are you kind of stay more on the graphic side and more on like the website building side?
Yeah, definitely do marketing plans as well. I usually like to work with, because small businesses have a limited budget, I usually start with the budget and then try to work backwards. What can we do to maximize that budget? If you have this much money to spend per month, should we spend that on Facebook? Should we put that into your website? Should we put that into SEO to build your website there? PPC ads, Google ads, what should we do with that? So trying to help them make those decisions and then fulfilling that as part of my role as well.
Are you only on the online side, or do you also help people with offline? Because really, like, we think we live in a digital world, but sometimes, like, sometimes the offline stuff does still work. And, so I think sometimes people get so enthralled and so like, Google eyes and, they look like shining lights at the casino with all the stuff online. And most business owners that I know, unless they're like really young and they come out of, an IT background, or they come out of a digital background, they don't really know enough to be able to really make some of those decisions. And sometimes like it is better to just do belly sales to start, or just to figure out how to make some of those offline market and even referral programs. As I think referral programs are one of the best marketing tools you can actually use. So do you help people with that too? Or is this kind of just, again, you're focused more on the digital side?
A little bit of both, probably more on the digital side. But the thing about a branding first approach is it just bleeds over into every type of marketing that you can do. And so I do, things like billboard design. I don't have any billboards to rent, but I can design up the billboards for you based on your branding, print design if we're needed. One of the big things you mentioned referral, you mentioned that offline marketing. One of the big things that I think would be very helpful for a lot of businesses is being more intentional about that. How do you encourage word of mouth marketing? And that's something that I help a little bit with too. It fits right in with the branding. But when somebody walks into your store, if you've got a storefront, somebody shows up on your website, if you're only online, if you're a realtor dealing with your customers, what can you do that would surprise them, that would delight them, that would make them remember that experience so much that they would go and tell other people? And that's part of what I can do as well, what I help some customers with. We have a natural food store that's one of our customers here locally, and just trying to come up with some ways to delight customers and improve the customer service experience and all that is part of that. So definitely something to think about. There's a great book that I would recommend called Talk Triggers. That's all about this idea of creating an experience in your business that makes people want to talk about it.
Awesome. I love reading new books, and I have not read that one. So, I'm really interested. I think that's really cool. I'm interested in that book myself personally. So, I always love to get people's stories. I always love to figure out what made them get to where they are now. Why did they choose the path that they're on right now? So why don't you just tell us a little bit about your story? Like, how did you get to where you are? What made you decide to start this business? And just tell us a little bit more about that story.
That's an interesting question, because I think probably for a lot of people, it's more like it chose me rather than I chose it. That sounds a bit cliche, but it really is true. I think I started off after college. I have a biology degree that I never really used, bachelor's in biology. And while I was trying to figure out how to use my biology degree, I started working as an electrician for a little bit, and just not quite satisfied, I guess, with where I was going in life. So I decided to go to seminary and become a preacher. So I went to an intensive 2-year seminary program, just a Bible only, preaching only type program. And after that, started ministering with a smaller church, around 120 people or so each Sunday, and did that for nearly 8 years. When you're, as you know, if you're a pastor of a smaller or medium-sized church, you wear a lot of hats. And so one of the hats that I put on was website developer. We didn't have a website for the church. And so I started back, I don't know, it's been probably 15 years ago, the first time I tried to make a website for our church. And the first one didn't turn out so great. So I tried again and made it a little bit better. And then our local church camp that we were involved with needed a website, so I built one for them. We needed online registration, so I learned some more coding. And then eventually I got to the point where I was thinking I can help other churches with this as well, and I could build websites for churches. So it just started as a way to help, and it started as just a side business there that I could do to help other churches and ministries, and started gaining some clients there. We got to a point in our ministry, it's a long story and there's some personal details I can't share anyway, but we got to a point in our ministry where there was a particular situation that was just so hard on our family that we felt like we needed to step away from ministry. If you've never been in full-time ministry, and even if you haven't, you could probably look at it from the outside, but it's a very difficult thing. It's an interesting experience, being almost in a fishbowl. Everybody gets to see what you do, and everybody gets to make judgments about how you live. And it wasn't necessarily all of that, but that added pressure along with this particular situation just made me rethink my family and protecting them and taking care of them. So because I'd already started doing these other things, my initial thought was I'll build my side business and I'll turn it into a full-time gig and then step out of ministry when it gets to that point. But on a whim, I had actually applied for a couple web design positions that were remote and remote work positions. Didn't think I'd ever get them, but I ended up landing one of those roles. And within a year and a half or so, they promoted me to the director of design over the design team for that marketing firm. And so it kind of just went from there and started with websites and built on other marketing services and this focus on branding. And that's kind of where I've got to this point.
Interesting. So our journeys are always never like what we think they're going to be. You know, we envision our lives as this like straight line, and you know and we think that just because the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, that's what our life is going to look like. And you know, it's never the case. You know, sometimes it's a 2-step forward and 1 step back. Sometimes it's a squiggly line, and we got no idea where we're at half the time. But we know we're still focused on trying to reach those goals and know what that purpose is. And, you know, I think God gives us what our purpose is. He says, you know, go into all the world and preach the gospel. It is our mission on this earth to get the gospel spread around. So, but we all sit in different seats. We all have different parts of the body. And I think for entrepreneurs and for purpose-driven, kingdom-focused business owners, our focus should also be that same focus. We should be very singular with God, and we should be seeing our businesses the way God sees them. And we should be trying to focus on making sure that we are taking whatever it is that's God given us. Maybe he's given us time, maybe he's given us talent, maybe he's given us treasure, whatever that is. We want to use that for his kingdom. And that's what you're doing here. You have a talent, you have a skill, and you're trying to use that for him, whether or not you're the pastor or not. I tell my pastor all the time, and I go to a mega church here that has 15,000 in Sunday school and Sunday mornings. And, you know, me and him will talk back and forth many times, and I'll tell him, I believe my position is just as important as his. It's not the head. Yeah. I'm not the head of the church like he is, but my position as a Christian business owner, as a layman in his flock is just as important. Now, maybe I'm not the head, maybe I'm the rear end. I don't know, but I definitely think it's a very vital position that we hold as Christian entrepreneurs. And, you know, we can blame it on missionaries. We can blame it on pastors or Christian colleges, why we haven't gotten the gospel around the world to every creature in every nation. But, you know, everything changed for me when I realized, you know, it's not their job, it's my job. And it's the same thing with your own personal communities. It is not everybody else's job around the community to clean it up and to keep it up and to keep it right. It's your job. It's my job. And that's why I have the nonprofit, the Community Go-Giver, because I want to be able to help my communities. And my community is not just my local community; it's my church community, it's my world community, and I want to be a blessing and to be able to help other people. I don't know if, or I guess that kind of leads us right into that next question. And maybe like you said, you can't give all the details of this, or maybe this doesn't. Maybe you want to bring up another challenge. But we always love to learn from people's challenges. We always love to learn from how people got through what they got through, what they learned, and how to help. Because really, the Bible even is pretty clear about this. He said, share your faults one to another. And he doesn't say it because like you're supposed to go share your faults to a priest. He says, share your faults one to another. So it's really to encourage and to exhort everybody else around you. It's one of the reasons why we have church and we go to church, is to exhort one another and to encourage everybody else and to know, hey, we're all in this together. So, what has been one of your challenges, and how did you get through this, and what did you learn?
I think probably the biggest challenge is the one I mentioned. It's it's an interesting thing when you have devoted your life to a particular role, like you mentioned, in the church, to a particular position, and then to come to terms with maybe changing that role. And there is a little bit of humbling you have to do of yourself to say, I need to put aside what I think I need to do and take care of my family or pursue something else, and then find purpose in that. And I think that was a challenge for me at first as well. There was certainly family struggles. There were some challenges that we faced. The situation was particularly hard on my wife, again, without going into too many details, but it was a real struggle for her. So for me to be in that position of my job and my role in the church is causing this struggle, in a sense, was kind of hard to come to terms with. So transitioning, I think, a lot of pastors have trouble transitioning out of ministry into what we call secular work. I don't know that there's really such a thing, but some pastors struggle with that. But I was, in the workforce before I became a pastor, so I don't know if it was so much that. But when your job is to feed people and teach people and serve people and love people, and now all of a sudden your primary role is to help others make money, initially, that was a bit of a change. But I think, what you mentioned, just having that focus that what I'm doing, no matter what it is meant to be done for the glory of God. And when I think about one of the verses that has really helped to ground me is in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. And I think you made a reference to this one earlier, but where Paul basically says, make it your aim to live a quiet life and to work with your hands and to mind your own business. And sometimes we get so caught up as Christians in, I want to make a huge impact, and as business owners and entrepreneurs, I want to make a huge impact. I want to be a big celebrity. I want to be a big name. I want to make a bunch of money. I want to, even in the church, be a big name pastor, have a big church. But Paul, when he says, this is your aim, your goal, live a quiet life, work with your hands, mind your own business, there's a lot of godliness in that. There's a lot of success in that, in just taking care of your family, providing some good in the world through the work that you do.
Yeah, that reminds me of a statement that my pastor always says, and it sometimes it's hard, but he says, "Go low and stay low, or stay low and go slow." Like it's really like sometimes we have to kind of push down that pride that comes up in us that thinks that we should be known or that people should know about us, and even in the marketing world, that's really hard. It's like I'm one of it's hard. It's probably one of the hardest things for a marketing company to work with me, because I'm so anti. I want to tell everybody else that I'm the solution to their problems, because I know I can't, in all integrity and all honesty, say that, because I know the only solution to their problems is God and His word and what He says. And I'm just a messenger. I'm just a reflection of His light, which on the other hand also gives me great security and gives me great comfort, and gives me, the knowledge to know that I know the truth. I don't have to be anything special, and because I know what the truth says. All wisdom comes from God's word, and it doesn't matter what book you read it in. If it's not a biblical principle, it's not going to work. It may work for a short period of time, but it's not going to work in the long run. And so that's really interesting for us. So, so what has kept you going? Why do you do what you do? There's always got to be something that's a little bit bigger than you, in order to kind of make that happen, and in order to kind of just grit out some of these periods of time in our life that we don't really like. I honestly, I think most people listening right now would probably say 2020 is one of these endurance, perseverance type years. Our hands have been tied with many of these different things, and it's just kind of hard to kind of consider, what are we supposed to do this year, and just to persevere and make it through. But I think, reminding ourselves of why we got in this in the first place, and what we're doing, and what makes us get up in the morning, and using that as a motivation every single day is what's always helped me. And I know it's what everybody else has told me, like that's what keeps them going. It's not like it's not the fact that they have to pay bills, because at the end of the day, that'll get old and people just give in.
Yeah.
But having that purpose that's greater than you is always vital in having the right kind of success. So why do you do what you do?
That transition when I moved from being a pastor, full-time ministry, to again what we would call secular work, and I said I don't know there's such a thing because of the conclusions. I guess you almost have to come to when you make that kind of transition, but coming to the point where, of course, sharing the gospel is important, and of course that's our primary purpose. But the work that you do in the world through your job, through your career, through helping other people through helping people find homes if you're a realtor, helping people find quality products if you're a retailer, there's value in that. And like you said, Adam and Eve, their first job was to be fruitful, multiply, take care of the garden, tend this. There's divine directive in just doing your job and doing it well and helping other people through that. And that's one of the big motivators for me now. And of course, I'm still involved in the church that I'm a part of now. I serve as a deacon. I still get to preach and teach at times. So there's still a purpose there. But as far as my everyday job now, one of the things that I've really got involved with lately is the local Chamber of Commerce. And then some of us who are Chamber of Commerce members have come together and formed a local small business focused steering committee is really what we are. We just try to find ways to encourage and help other small business owners in the community. So we're trying to encourage that economic growth and encourage that impact in our community. There's plenty of statistics out there that would say that economic level and growth is connected to things like crime and depression and mental health and all sorts of things. So if we can raise the quality of life economically, even though that's just a monetary thing, it has such a bigger impact than that. And I think as Christians, sometimes we have this love-hate relationship with the money. Obviously the bills is a love-hate relationship, but trying to figure out where we stand when it comes to money. But I think that seeing the value of economic impact locally and how that can help us help people, just to help people by raising our economic standard locally is a big thing. So this steering committee I'm a part of, we offer local workshops. That's one of the things I'm primarily involved with, just helping them to learn how to market and offering some free workshops in that way. And then we also put on a Shop Local campaign, which we're putting together right now, which I'm involved with as well, to help businesses come together and be a part of the campaign, which is kind of a cool thing if you're interested in doing it. We're giving it a shot this year, a little different than last year. Last year was our first year. Last year, we basically, all participating businesses, you could go in and you could register at least once per day in that business. And the other businesses were promoted on signs in all the other businesses, so you'd know what business to go to and drop in your registration. And we had a $1,000 shopping spree was the grand prize that could be used at any participating business. So the money then goes back into the community, and it was anonymous donor that gave us that money. This year we're doing it more like a scavenger hunt, where the more businesses you visit, the better chance you have of winning. And we change it up a little bit because we realized that the retail owners with shop fronts and everything were getting more benefit out of the way we did it last year with people coming in the store. But what about service businesses and realtors and others? It's hard to get people. You don't want them coming in and out all the time if you have a storefront at all. So we're actually putting up signs in various places and doing more like a scavenger hunt. And the more businesses you find, the more entries you get. But anyway, it's kind of an interesting role, and another way I've found to find purpose, to just try to help our local economy and help local business owners, and in turn help their families who are my neighbors, and reach out in that way.
That's awesome. I really appreciate all that. And, maybe that is the exciting project that you have working on right now, but we always just love to know what exciting project do you have working on right now, or do you have a program that, maybe some of our listeners may be interested in connecting with you, or, what do you have going on right now that would be interesting to the Good Success community?
That's certainly one of the big ones is trying to nail down that. And if anybody would like more information about how that goes for us and would like to start some shop local campaigns in their area or other, local small business workshops or anything like that, I'd be happy to talk to anybody about that. One of the things that I think could be helpful that I offer, of course, is the branding consultation and coaching or just marketing strategy in general. So certainly if anybody would be interested in that and developing their brand, the personality of their business, maybe some of those talk triggers to help people just be delighted when they come to the store or do business with you, then coldriverweb.com is my website. There's a get started button there. You can click and fill out the form, and that'll get you going.
So that is the best way for our listeners to get a hold of you is just to go to coldriverweb.com.
Yes, sir. Yep.
All right. Well, we'll just leave it at that then. So thank you so much, Clint, for investing in our community. To me, trying to get these guests on the podcast is, it's kind of a job in itself, but I always want to know, what other people think about what real success looks like. And, for us, the name Good Success comes from Joshua 1:8. It's the only time in the entire Bible, at least the King James Version, in which the word success is even ever mentioned. It's only mentioned one time, and it's in Joshua 1:8. And the adjective used to describe success that we're supposed to have here on earth is good success. And then thou shalt have good success. That word good is all through the Bible. Even in the Genesis 1, when God saw that it was good, and God saw that it was good, and God saw the morning and the evening were the first day, and God saw that it was good. And he saw Adam, and then he said, for Adam to be alone, it wasn't good. So he created woman for man. But the name Good Success means a lot to us. It's about the quality of success and not the quantity of success. It's about doing the right thing, being the right person, having the right motives, working with the right people, and really staying in things for the right amount of time. And, obviously sometimes we make mistakes, and sometimes we, go down trails that we shouldn't go down. And maybe God has to change those paths for us. But I think he always comes back and says, hey, I've got something else for you. Sometimes it's better. Sometimes it's just to provide for our families, and it's to love somebody. Sometimes it's to help the other people that have gone through exactly what we've gone through. So I really appreciate your time with us in spending time with us today. But I always want to know what other people's definition of the right kind of success is. So what does good success mean to you?
And that's such a big, loaded question. But if I had to narrow it down, I think it would come back to Paul's statement about being able to find contentment in any circumstance. Most entrepreneurs, most business owners just live in a constant state of discontent. I wish things were better. I wish I was selling more. I wish I had more business. Finding contentment in any circumstance, that can only be done if your focus is on God and on his mission. So I think if you could achieve that, then you've checked off all the other boxes.
That's really good. Some people talk about happiness. Some people talk about like win-win situations, but like really whatsoever state I am therewith to be content. Like there's no greater purpose really of life for yourself personally, at least, than to be content with what God's given you. And that's why I think stewardship is so important, because stewardship means you're not the owner of your own life. Stewardship means you are stewarding something for somebody else. And that as soon as we realize that nothing that we have is really ours, we are just a steward of what God's given us. And the time, this little tiny speck of earth, this speck of time that we've been given on this earth is ours to steward for him and for his kingdom. Then I think the better off we're going to be. So thank you so much again for that. You know what, Clint, I always ask everybody one more question, and I try to do this just because I know you've already invested, 40 plus minutes into our community. You've given us a lot of nuggets, a lot to think about in our businesses. If we're looking for marketing or if we're needing something, I hope you guys will connect with Clint with that. And again, I'll give you that web address. It's coldriverweb.com. But we're always looking to just pull one more nugget or one more thing out of you before we let you go. So if there was just one thing that you would love to get out to the world, whether it's a book, maybe it's a statement, maybe it's a life lesson, or maybe it's just a mindset that you live by, whatever it is, whatever you would like to get, that message that you'd like to get out to the world, what would that be?
Again, another big loaded question, and we've talked a lot about on the spiritual side of things. I think from a business perspective, marketing perspective, though, the recommendation that I could make is this book here, Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. If you haven't read this book, it's been influential in a lot of the principles that I use, along with some other important books. Anything by Chip and Dan Heath is also very good, two brothers who are authors. But Donald Miller's got a great program and a great framework there for thinking about your brand in terms of a story and make the customer the hero and all that. So good stuff.
I love that book. There's even a whole consulting package that I have friends of mine that are Story Brand certified. So there's a whole other thing behind that as well. But yeah, that's his recommendation. Everybody, if you guys get out, if you guys don't have that book, get out and read that book. And it really does have some really good principles. And it kind of like, we'll go through the process of which you have to take every single client through. And they're going to go through this process with or without you. And it's just better if you can kind of help lead that sale through that process. And, I think it is a really good marketing book, and it's the best part about the book, I think, is the process and letting you know that you do need to take people, all your customers, through that process in order to get them to that point where you really want them to be referring you, and they're going to love you and they're going to be thankful for you and appreciate you, which is really what we want. Because who cares if we really sell somebody something and we make a couple bucks? Like, what we really want is them coming back to us over and over again, and we want them to tell their friends. That's really what it's all about, is having influence, and really being able to help not just one person, but all their friends in their community. So really appreciate your time, Clint. Thank you again for investing in the Good Success community. I don't really have anything else to say, but I appreciate your service to our country with being a pastor. I do know that is something that not everybody can do, and sometimes we're only called to do it for a period of time, and sometimes God has different things for us. I appreciate your humility on the show, and I believe the audience will appreciate it as well. So that's going to do it for today's episode, guys. If this has been any value to you, and I know it has been for me, I would just ask you to please go to iTunes and give us a 5-star review, or if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, please subscribe and share this with your friends. Let other people know about the Good Success community. If you're interested in a like-minded mastermind, you guys heard a lot about kingdom entrepreneurship today. I've been a part of a lot of masterminds throughout the last 10, 12 years. A lot of them are not kingdom focused. The Good Success Mastermind is a kingdom focused mastermind. If you're looking to grow your business, if you're looking to bounce issues in your business off of other people like we do in the mastermind, and to be able to teach a little bit and to help other Christian entrepreneurs in the process as well, I would ask you to check out the Good Success Mastermind. You can go to goodsuccess.com to be able to make that happen. Or if you just want to email us at sales@goodsuccess.com, we can have a conversation and see if you qualify to be a part of the national, local, or maybe you just want to be part of the virtual mastermind. Either way, we have the Good Success Facebook group as well. You can join, and obviously you're listening already to the Good Success podcast. So that's going to do it for today's episode, guys. Remember to be a conduit, not a bucket. Work to have to give. God bless. We hope you have enjoyed this episode of the Good Success Podcast, and we hope to see you on the next one. God bless.